Douglas Moore. I'm a member of Our Lady of Fatima Catholic Church, have been for the last 56 plus years. And my mother, Ms. Lou Moore, was a teacher in Sears Elementary School while my dad worked at Lawrence Furniture Company downtown as a delivery driver. In 1961, 1962, my mother and my father were talking about trying to get her to move closer to home, having to drive 20 plus miles from Winona, Grisola Heights to the airport area 5 days a week was getting a little expensive. It was creating some logistics problems. And so the principal at Sears helped my mother get a transfer to the Titusville area to Lane Elementary School. And with that transfer, that meant I had to leave all my childhood friends from kindergarten to the 7th grade and make a move. My idea was to move and go to a school in my neighborhood with my cousin at Winona Elementary School. At that time, for African Americans, textbooks in public schools were hand-me-down. And I was lucky that my mom and my dad were able to provide me with good textbooks. But my mother wanted, and my dad agreed to put me in a school where the educational system was a step above what we were receiving in the Birmingham public schools. Even though that education was at that time very good, the teachers gave everything they had. So my mother began to hear some of her friends talk about education in the Catholic schools. And one of her friends told my mother that there was a school, Our Lady of Fatima, that was around the corner down the street from Oregon High School. She went and interviewed and talked with Sister Mary Maureen, who was a sister of Notre Dame, and the priest, Father Al Barney, who was a Josephite, who they staffed the parish here for many years. On that eventful day of 1963, in September, I made my first day at Our Lady of Fatima, as my mother called it, as an 8th grade student in short pants, and all the other 8th grade boys had on long pants, and I was kind of the joke of the day. But there was one young man who, even though he was kind of jokingly playing with me, was also the one who kind of encouraged me, just hang in there, you'll be okay. And that young man was Bill Terry. Bill was one of those that for some reason hit it off. We wound up being just real big helpers in the 8th grade. Matter of fact, one of the things that I have not related in any of the other stories, that President Kennedy was shot. There was a store across the alley from our playground at Our Lady of Fatima. And we knew that the gentleman who ran the store didn't have a television or radio in his store. And so we told Sister we were going to go down and tell him. She said, well, you and Bill go tell him that the president's been shot, so he'll know. And when we went around and told him, and his remark was, about time somebody got that nigga lover. And so Bill and I went back and told Sister what he said, and Sister said, not one of the students here ought to go to that store ever again. And we did. And his business shriveled from that point, because the word went out from Fatima that he was racist. In 1964, we graduated from Our Lady of Fatima as 8th grade student, and all of us had this idea that we were going to come to Immaculata High School, which was a high school that was assigned, that was a part of the parish. And then we were going to come as freshmen, we were going to change the basketball team, and we were going to get a football team started. We were going to, all this great stuff that we were going to do. And Bill Taylor, myself, a young man named Charles Gordon, Christopher Martin, and Roland Patton, what we would call the Holy Five, and in some cases even the Three Musketeers. And that was because we were always the ones that wanted to find ways to help the sisters. I hate to say it, but we were as mischievous as we were good. In 1966, the high school here was closed at Immaculata by order of the Archbishop. Our group was broken up. Charles and Roland Patton went to Parker, Bill and Christopher wound up going to Albany, and I went to John Carroll. In 1968, we all graduated on time. Following summer, I did my freshman year at mine. Bill tried his best to go to the loss at one point. He found some work, but he decided he wanted to go into the military. And Bill and I stood right outside after the Sunday Mass prior to the 4th of July, talking about how he was going to be going to Vietnam. He was on his way to Hawaii and then on to Vietnam, not knowing that would be the last time I would speak to my friend. For the last several years since I've been a deacon here at Fatima, and I've been asked to tell the story many times. His older sister, Phyllis Terry, used to talk about how the story we had received was that Bill had been killed on arriving and landing in a military base at Saigon. Phyllis met a young man who was in a unit with Bill, said that that wasn't the story, that was the truth, and that Bill had actually died in a firefight to defend his wounded comrades while they were being evacuated. My mom sent me a letter and told me that they were having Bill Terry's funeral here. She wanted to come home, but she would send me all of the information, and I remember getting letters with pictures and photos from the funeral. My dad sent me an article with a paper that described the fact that the funeral had been held here at Our Lady of Fatima. The cemetery would not allow Bill Terry to be buried. The pictures that I had seen at the funeral, that it was packed, there was nowhere in this church that you could find seating. And that when the funeral left here and processed, that when they found out there was a black funeral coming in, they closed the gates and told them they didn't allow the inward to be buried there. They had to find another place. And Father Farrell reminded me that the funeral of the cemetery could refuse the military request of a veteran. Father Farrell, for the entire period, never closed the Mass. He would always lead the Mass and those who were there out the door up to 6th Avenue and down to Elm Cemetery, where they would march every day. And at 5 o'clock when they locked the gates, he would lead them back up 6th Avenue, back here to the church and have evening Mass. And then they would start Mass again at 7 a.m. the next morning. My father was a U.S. Navy vet, and I remember growing up, and my father, he used to tell me stories about his service in World War II in the Pacific, and with Japanese attacks and on the ships. I've seen Clint Eastwood's video, and when I saw that, I realized what my father actually had gone through. My father told me that when he left here as a member of the 1st CD Battalion to be sent to the Pacific, and one of the first blacks in the Navy in the CD, that his request was to be buried at the National Cemetery in Washington. But his commanding officer and the Navy Department told him that Negroes, unless you earned a Bronze Star or a Congressional Medal of Honor or a Purple Heart, were not buried at the National Cemetery. And so my father felt kind of slighted that he wouldn't be able to be buried at the National Cemetery. And so with Bill's death came a change. With the court ruling and Bill Terry's internment at Elmwood Cemetery, the ban on cemeteries being able to bury only one race was erased. Bill's desire to be buried opened the doors for every family everywhere in this country to bury their family members at the cemetery of choice.